April 10, 2015, 5 p.m. Two police officers push through dense Australian bushland, their boots crunching over dry branches. They've been searching Kokopara National Park for hours. The sun is setting fast. Then they see it. Disturbed earth, ash, the unmistakable smell of burned flesh. One officer reaches for his radio with trembling hands while the other turns away, fighting the urge to be sick. What they find will confirm every family's worst nightmare, but will also raise a question that threatens to derail the entire investigation. A question of identity, a question of DNA, a question that seems impossible to answer. Which twin committed murder? Because when two brothers share the same genetic code, how do you prove who's guilty? How do you convince a jury beyond reasonable doubt when science itself can't tell them apart? But to understand how we got here, we need to go back 5 days earlier, to a sunny Easter morning, to a bride-to-be with her whole life ahead of her. This is the story of Stephanie Scott, and it's not the story you think you know. But before we dive deeper into this chilling case, I'd love to hear from you. Go down to the comments and tell me two things: where in the world you're watching from, and what time it is right now as you're listening. It's always incredible to see how true crime connects people across every corner of the globe at every hour of the day. And yes, I'll be reading through them. So don't be shy. And while you're here, if you enjoy deep dives into cases like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. It's a simple click, but it helps more than you know. And it means you'll never miss the next story we uncover together. April 5th, 2015, Easter Sunday. The kind of morning that starts with sunshine and promise. Stephanie Scott wakes up in a home she shares with her fiancé, Aaron Leeton. And the first thing she sees is her wedding dress hanging on the closet door. In exactly 6 days, she'll walk down that aisle. 6 days until she marries her high school sweetheart in front of everyone they love. 6 days of counting down to forever. But Stephanie Scott doesn't have 6 days. She has 6 hours. And she doesn't know it yet. The house is filled with reminders of the celebration to come. Wedding invitations stacked neatly on the kitchen counter. Packed suitcases waiting by the bedroom door, ready for their honeymoon in New Zealand. Yellow ribbons, her favorite color, scattered throughout the rooms. Everything is falling perfectly into place. But this morning, Stephanie has something else on her mind. Work. Even with her wedding just days away, she's thinking about her students. She's a drama and English teacher at Leeton High School, beloved by everyone who knows her. She's arranged for a substitute teacher to cover her classes while she's on her honeymoon. But being Stephanie, she can't help but worry. Will the substitute understand her teaching style? Will the students behave? Will they fall behind in their Shakespeare unit? These are the questions running through her mind over breakfast. "I'll just pop into school for an hour," she tells Aaron, spreading jam on her toast. "Make sure everything's perfect for the sub. You know how I am." Aaron does know. It's one of the things he loves most about her. Her dedication, her caring nature, her complete inability to do anything halfway. When Stephanie commits to something, whether it's teaching or loving or planning a wedding, she gives it everything she has. "Take your time," Aaron says, kissing her forehead. "But not too much time. We've still got wedding stuff to finalize." Stephanie promises she won't be long. 2 hours maximum. She'll organize the lesson plans, leave detailed notes for the substitute, and be home by mid-afternoon. They can spend the evening going over final details with the caterer and confirming the guest count. It's such an ordinary conversation, the kind couples have every day. Neither of them has any reason to think this moment is precious, that this goodbye matters. At 12:30 p.m., Stephanie gathers her things. Her laptop, her lesson planning binder, a thermos of coffee for the short drive. Aaron walks her to the door and kisses her goodbye. "Don't be long," he says. "I love you." 2 hours, Max promised. "Love you too." She climbs into her red Mazda 3, adjusts the rear-view mirror and backs out of the driveway. Aaron stands in the doorway, watching her drive away. He's already planning what to make for dinner, already thinking about their honeymoon, the beaches they'll visit, the adventures they'll share. He has absolutely no idea that he'll never see Stephanie alive again. Because while Stephanie drives toward Leeton High School with lesson plans and wedding dreams filling her mind, another vehicle is heading to the same destination. The driver has been waiting for a day like this. A day when the school would be empty. A day when a certain young teacher would be alone. He's thought about this moment for weeks, planned every detail. And now, as Stephanie's red Mazda turns onto the school street, his opportunity has finally arrived. But who is Stephanie Scott, really? And why would anyone want to hurt someone so full of light? To understand what was stolen on that Easter Sunday, you need to know who Stephanie Scott really was. Not just a headline, not just a victim, a person, a daughter, a teacher, a light in her community. October 14th, 1988, Stephanie Claire Scott entered a world that would love her fiercely and lose her far too soon. Her father, Bob Scott, was deputy principal at Canondra High School, a man who believed education could change lives. He had no idea how profoundly his own daughter would prove that belief true. Her mother, Marilyn, raised 5 children with the kind of strength and warmth that builds unshakable foundations. The Scott home was filled with laughter, love, and a simple philosophy: leave every person in place better than you found it. Stephanie took that lesson to heart. Stephanie was the kind of child who drew people in. Even as a little girl, she had this energy about her, bright, curious, impossibly enthusiastic about everything she touched. She threw herself into school plays with abandon, memorizing not just her own lines, but everyone else's too, just in case someone needed help. Magnetic, that's the word people use when they talk about Stephanie. It comes up again and again in every interview, every memory, every tribute. Her smile could change the energy of an entire room when she walked into a space. People felt it. They felt seen. They felt valued. They felt like they mattered. She discovered her passion for drama and performance early, and it never left her, all through high school and university. She pursued it with the same intensity she brought to everything in her life. But Stephanie didn't want to perform on stage for herself. She wanted to teach others to find their voices, to step into the spotlight, to believe they were capable of greatness. By 2015, at just 26 years old, she was doing exactly that at Leeton High School. She taught English and drama, but ask any of her students and they'll tell you she taught so much more than curriculum. She taught courage, confidence, self-expression, the belief that you could be more than you thought possible. She made you feel like you could do anything, one former student said. She believed in us before we believed in ourselves. She saw potential in the quiet kids, the struggling kids, the ones other teachers had written off, and she never gave up on anyone. Her classroom was a sanctuary for students who didn't fit in elsewhere, the theater kids, the misfits, the dreamers. Stephanie created a space where being different wasn't just accepted, it was celebrated. She directed school plays, staying late into the evening for rehearsals. She wrote college recommendation letters on weekends. She bought supplies out of her own pocket for students who couldn't afford them. She did all of this not because she had to, but because that's who Stephanie was. Someone who gave everything to the people she cared about. Her colleagues adored her. Her students worshiped her. The entire community of Leeton knew her name, knew her smile, knew the yellow ribbon she loved to wear in her hair. But Stephanie's light attracted more than just admiration. In those same hallways where she inspired students and changed lives, darkness was watching, and that darkness had a name, a face, and a plan. Vincent Stanford saw Stephanie too, but what he saw wasn't a teacher, a friend, or a human being. He saw an opportunity, and he'd been waiting for the perfect moment to take it. The question everyone in Leeton would soon be asking was simple and terrifying. How does a love story like Stephanie and Aaron's end in unthinkable tragedy? The answer begins with a proposal, a ring, and a wedding that would never happen. Every great tragedy contains within it a love story. And Stephanie Scott's love story with Aaron Leeson Woolley was the kind that restores your faith in romance, the kind that makes you believe soulmates are real. Their story began in the most unlikely way, in the office of a high school deputy principal. Aaron Leeson Woolley was just a teenager, sitting across the desk from Bob Scott, probably expecting a lecture. Instead, he found a father figure. Bob saw beyond the tough exterior, beyond the kid from the wrong side of town, and recognized something rare, genuine character, the kind you can't teach. What Aaron didn't know then was that this moment would change his entire life. Because sitting in that same school, teaching drama just down the hall, was Bob Scott's daughter, and she would become his everything. The Scott family did what the Scott family does best. They opened their home and their hearts. Sunday dinners became a regular thing. Aaron was invited to birthday parties, family gatherings, Christmas celebrations. Marilyn set an extra place at the table, without being asked. Stephanie's siblings treated him like the brother they never knew they needed. And Stephanie, she just saw Aaron, really saw him. Not the tough exterior he showed the world, not the kid from the wrong side of town, but the person underneath. Kind, loyal, funny, genuine. For 2 years, they were just friends, best friends. The kind who could talk for hours about nothing and everything, who understood each other's silences, who knew what the other was thinking with just a glance. And then, almost inevitably, friendship became something more. Nobody remembers exactly when it shifted. There was no dramatic moment, no grand declaration. It was gradual, natural, like seasons changing. One day they were friends. The next, they couldn't imagine life without each other. The transition was so seamless that when they finally started dating, everyone's reaction was the same. Finally, we've been waiting for you to figure it out. They were that couple, the one everyone roots for. High school sweethearts who actually made it work, who grew up together without growing apart. Aaron supported Stephanie through university, celebrating every achievement like it was his own. Stephanie believed in Aaron's dreams with fierce, unwavering conviction. By 2014, they'd been together for over a decade. They'd built a life, a home, a future. The proposal was inevitable, but Aaron still wanted it to be special. On April 11th, 2014, exactly 10 years to the day after their first official date, Aaron got down on one knee. He'd planned this moment for months, choosing a spot overlooking the countryside where they'd had their first kiss. The ring was simple, elegant, exactly Stephanie's style. "You've been my best friend, my partner, my everything," Aaron said, his voice shaking with emotion. "Will you marry me?" Stephanie said yes before he even finished the question. They set their wedding date for exactly 1 year later, April 11th, 2015. 12 months to plan the perfect celebration. And Stephanie planned it with the same passion and attention to detail she brought to everything in her life. Yellow everywhere, her signature color. Sunflowers in every arrangement. A sunset ceremony overlooking rolling hills. A reception filled with music, laughter, and everyone they loved. She'd chosen her first dance song, Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran. She'd selected her bridesmaids' dresses. She'd tasted 17 different cakes before finding the perfect one. Every detail was decided, every moment choreographed. The invitations had been sent. The RSVPs were coming back. The dress had been altered to fit perfectly. The honeymoon to New Zealand was booked. 2 weeks exploring the South Island, hiking, adventuring, starting their married life together. Everything was falling into place. Everything was perfect. And then Easter Sunday arrived. April 5th, 2015. 6 days before forever. But while Stephanie and Aaron were living their beautiful love story in Leeton, the town itself had a story too. One built on trust, open doors, and the belief that nothing bad could ever happen here. It was a belief that made Leeton special. It was also a belief that made Leeton vulnerable. Because in small towns where everyone knows everyone, it's easy to miss the stranger in plain sight, the man who didn't quite belong, the cleaner who worked alone. Leeton, New South Wales. Population, 11,000. Nestled in Australia's Riverina region, surrounded by farmland that stretches to the horizon. The kind of place where everyone knows your name, your parents' names, and probably what you had for breakfast. This was quintessential small-town Australia, the kind of place people move to precisely because nothing ever happens. The main street had a bakery run by the same family for 3 generations. A general store where people still ran tabs on trust alone. A pub where secrets last about 5 minutes because everyone talked to everyone. Kids rode their bikes until streetlights came on. Parents never worrying, never imagining that their town's greatest strength, knowing everyone, would become its fatal blind spot. Because when you think you know everyone, you stop looking closely. You miss what's hiding in plain sight. Nothing bad ever happened in Leeton. The biggest crime anyone could remember was someone shoplifting candy from the corner store. And even then, the shop owner knew exactly who did it and called their mother. Justice in Leeton was swift and personal. It came in the form of disappointed neighbors and mandatory apologies, not police reports. People didn't just know their neighbors here. They knew their neighbors' grandparents, their cousins 3 towns over, the story of how their great-grandfathers settled the land. Everyone's business was everyone's business, but not in a malicious way. It was community, connection, the fabric of small-town life. Doors stayed unlocked, even at night. Cars sat in driveways with keys in the ignition. Kids walked to school alone, stopping to pet dogs and chat with elderly residents working in their gardens. The local bank didn't even have security cameras. Why would they need them? This was a town built on trust. Leeton High School embodied that same spirit. Open campus, no security gates, no metal detectors, no strict sign-in procedures for staff. Teachers came and went on weekends to catch up on work, prepare lessons, organize classrooms. The school was a community space as much as an educational institution. Friday night football games drew half the town. School plays, like the one Stephanie directed, packed the auditorium. The school reflected Leeton's values: openness, trust, the belief that people are fundamentally good. And for decades, that belief had been justified. Nothing bad happened at Leeton High School. Nothing bad happened in Leeton until Easter Sunday, 2015. On that day, the very qualities that made Leeton special, the trust, the open doors, the knowing nods between neighbors, became weapons in the hand of someone who understood exactly how to exploit them. Because evil doesn't always storm through the front door. Sometimes it's been given a key. Sometimes it's been walking those hallways for months, invisible because it wore a uniform and kept its head down. Sometimes evil clocks in, sweeps the floors, and waits patiently for the perfect moment. And in Leeton, that moment arrived when a young bride-to-be decided to spend Easter Sunday preparing lessons for her students. Alone, vulnerable, trusting, just like her town taught her to be. The man waiting for her had a name, Vincent Stanford, and he'd been watching Stephanie Scott for weeks. Vincent Stanford, 24 years old. On paper, he was nobody special. A casual cleaner at Leeton High School. Lived with his mother and identical twin brother, Marcus, in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. Kept to himself. Didn't cause trouble. The kind of person you'd pass in the hallway and forget 5 minutes later. Exactly the way he wanted it. Because while Leeton prided itself on knowing everyone, Vincent Stanford had discovered something far more useful than being known. Being overlooked. In a town where everyone knew everyone. He'd mastered the art of being invisible. Just a cleaner. Just a quiet guy with the mop. Just another piece of furniture that people stopped seeing after the first week. And invisible men can do invisible things. They can watch without being watched. They can plan without raising suspicion. They can move through a building with keys to every door, and no one thinks to ask why. But people who worked closely with him noticed things that didn't quite add up. The way he'd stare without blinking, his gaze intense and uncomfortable, his unpredictable mood swings. Calm and compliant 1 minute, agitated and irritable the next, with no apparent trigger. The fact that he rarely spoke, and when he did, his voice was completely flat, devoid of any emotion or inflection. No joy, no sadness, nothing. Co-workers would later describe an unsettling quality they couldn't quite name, a sense that something was off, even if they couldn't pinpoint what. But in a small town built on politeness and giving people the benefit of the doubt, those concerns stayed unspoken. What no one knew, what couldn't possibly be known until police seized a computer, was that Vincent Stanford's online activity told a very different story than the quiet cleaner everyone thought they knew. His search history from the days before Easter Sunday painted a chilling picture. Widowmaker knife, sharpest puncture knives, how to subdue someone quickly, and one search that would later seem particularly calculated, bride. Going back further, to February 2015, the pattern became even clearer. Wedding dresses, brides getting ready, local weddings Leeton area. He wasn't just searching randomly. He was researching, planning, hunting. Vincent Stanford had been watching Stephanie Scott for weeks, learning her routines, studying her schedule, waiting for the perfect opportunity. And on Easter Sunday, when he learned the school would be completely empty and Stephanie would be there alone, he knew his moment had finally arrived. That morning, while Stephanie kissed Aaron goodbye and drove to school thinking about lesson plans and wedding flowers, Vincent Stanford was making very different preparations. He collected his kit from his bedroom, items he'd assembled over weeks, each one chosen for a specific purpose. Rope, handcuffs, a knife he'd researched carefully for maximum effectiveness. He placed them in a bag, drove to Leeton High School, and waited, because that's what predators do. They watch, they wait, and when the moment is perfect, they strike. The moment was now. Stephanie Scott's car was pulling into the parking lot, and she had absolutely no idea that in the next 2 hours her life and the entire town of Leeton would change forever. 12:30 p.m., Easter Sunday afternoon. Stephanie's red Mazda pulls into the Leeton High School parking lot, tires crunching over gravel in the otherwise silent campus. The school is completely deserted. Every other teacher, every student, every staff member is home with family, enjoying the long weekend. But Stephanie Scott has work to finish. And in making that choice, that simple, selfless choice to prepare lessons for her students, she's walking into the final 2 hours of her life. She doesn't know it yet. How could she? Evil doesn't announce itself. It doesn't send warnings. Sometimes it just waits in an empty hallway, holding keys it was trusted with. She grabs her laptop bag from the passenger seat, her lesson planning binder, a thermos of coffee that's still warm. She locks her car, force of habit, even though there's no one around, and walks toward the main entrance, keys jingling in her hand. The building feels different when it's empty, quieter. The hallways that are usually filled with the chaos of teenage energy now echo with every footstep. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. Stephanie's shoes click against the linoleum floor as she makes her way to her classroom. She settles in at her desk, spreading materials across the surface. Her substitute teacher will be covering Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet while she's on her honeymoon. Tragic irony that won't be lost on anyone later. Stephanie opens her laptop and begins typing detailed notes, organizing handouts by day, highlighting key discussion questions. She wants everything to be perfect. She's completely absorbed in her work, completely focused, completely unaware. 1:45 p.m., 75 minutes after Stephanie arrived, Vincent Stanford's Uda pulls into the parking lot. He doesn't park near the main entrance where his vehicle might be visible from the road. Instead, he chooses a spot hidden behind the gymnasium, tucked away from view. For a long moment, he just sits there, engine off, watching the building, making sure no one else is around. Then he reaches into the back seat and retrieves a dark canvas bag. Inside are items he's collected over the past weeks. Rope, purchased from a hardware store 3 towns over where no one knew him. Handcuffs ordered online. A knife he'd researched carefully, reading reviews about blade sharpness and handle grip. Everything chosen for a specific purpose. Vincent exits his vehicle, locks it quietly, and approaches the school. He has keys. Of course he has keys. He's the cleaner. He has access to every door, every room, every corner of this building. He enters through a side entrance, one without security cameras. He moves through the hallways like a ghost. Silent, deliberate. He's cleaned these floors for months. He knows exactly where the security cameras are positioned, knows their blind spots, knows how to move through the building without leaving a digital trace. He's been planning this for weeks. Every detail mapped out, every variable considered. But there's one thing Vincent Stanford didn't plan for, one variable he didn't account for. Stephanie Scott finishing her work ahead of schedule, 2:30 p.m. In her classroom, Stephanie saves her document one final time and closes her laptop. She stacks the lesson plans neatly on the desk, secured with a paperclip and a cheerful yellow sticky note for the substitute. She's done everything she came here to do, and she's actually ahead of schedule. She can surprise Aaron, maybe stop at the grocery store and grab ingredients for his favorite pasta dish. Maybe they can spend the evening relaxing instead of rushing through last-minute wedding tasks. Stephanie gathers her things, slings her laptop bag over her shoulder, and heads to the door. Her mind is already racing ahead. The wedding is 6 days away. The dress fitting is finalized, the caterer confirmed, the honeymoon itinerary printed and packed. Everything is falling into place. She walks down the corridor toward the main exit, her footsteps echoing in the empty building. She's thinking about New Zealand, about the hiking trails Aaron has been researching, about waking up next to her husband, for the first time. She's thinking about her future, about her whole beautiful life stretching out ahead of her. She steps away from the front gate, steps away from her car, steps away from safety when she sees him. Vincent Stanford, the school cleaner, standing in the hallway ahead of her. Stephanie doesn't feel fear. Why would she? This is Leeton. This is her school. This is just a quiet guy who cleans the classrooms. She does what Stephanie Scott always does when she sees another human being. She smiles. Warm, genuine, kind. Oh, hi. I'm heading home now. Have a happy Easter. Her voice is bright, cheerful, full of life. She's already thinking past this moment, already planning what she'll make for dinner, already anticipating Aaron's surprise when she arrives home early. Vincent Stanford doesn't smile back. His face remains completely blank, emotionless, his eyes calculating, cold, predatory. And those 7 words, "I'm heading home now, have a happy Easter," will be the last words Stephanie Scott ever spoke. What happened next occurred in minutes. Brutal minutes that I won't describe in graphic detail, because Stephanie deserves better than that. And you don't need those images in your head, but you need to understand the calculation behind it. The cold, methodical evil. Because this wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of madness. This was exactly what Vincent Stanford had been planning for weeks. And when it was over, when Stephanie's body lay lifeless in a storage room she'd walked past 1,000 times, Stanford did something that reveals just how disturbed he really was. He went home, made himself a sandwich, and returned to clean up his crime scene like it was just another shift. What happened in the next few minutes changed everything. But I'm going to handle this differently than you might expect. I'm not going to walk you through the violence step by step, because Stephanie Scott deserves better than that. You deserve better than that. The graphic details serve no purpose except to traumatize and sensationalize. But you need to understand 3 things about what happened in that storage room. The brutality of the attack, the calculation behind every action, and the complete absence of anything resembling a human conscience. Because this wasn't a moment of rage or passion. This was a script Vincent Stanford had been writing in his mind for weeks. And when he finally got his chance, he followed it perfectly. According to Stanford's own confession to police, given calmly, without emotion, like he was describing his daily routine, here's what happened. He grabbed Stephanie from behind as she tried to open the front gate. She was steps away from her car, steps away from safety. He dragged her into a storage room, a room she'd walked past countless times. He locked the door. What followed was sustained, vicious attack. He beat her approximately 30 to 40 times. He sexually assaulted her as she lay dying. Then he stabbed her in the neck to make sure she was dead. Those were his exact words to police. Clinical, detached, like he was describing a household chore. The entire attack lasted minutes, not hours. Minutes. Efficient, planned, remorseless. And then Vincent Stanford did something that reveals just how disturbed, how utterly devoid of conscience he truly was. He left Stephanie's body in that storage room, walked out to his vehicle, and drove home to his mother's house. There, while Stephanie Scott lay dead in the school storage room and her family waited for her to come home, Vincent Stanford made himself a cheese sandwich and had a cup of coffee. Let me repeat that because it's important you understand the level of sociopathy we're dealing with. He murdered a woman, a beloved teacher, a bride-to-be, someone who smiled at him and wished him a happy Easter. And then he went home for lunch, 3:15 p.m. 45 minutes later, Stanford returned to Leeton High School, while Erin was texting Stephanie asking when she'd be home. While her family was starting to wonder why she hadn't called, Stanford was methodically cleaning the crime scene. He spent hours erasing evidence, mopping blood, moving furniture, disposing of materials. And then, with the same cold calculation he'd shown throughout, he loaded Stephanie's body into the trunk of her own red Mazda, the car she'd driven to school that morning thinking about lesson plans and wedding flowers. By evening, the crime scene was clean. The evidence was hidden. Stephanie's car was gone. And Vincent Stanford went home to sleep, believing he'd gotten away with murder. But Vincent Stanford made one critical mistake in his planning. He'd thought of everything: the weapon, the timing, the cleanup, the disposal. Everything except one variable he couldn't control: people who loved Stephanie Scott. Because 70 kilometers away, Aaron Leeson was staring at his phone, watching another call go to voicemail. 2 hours had become 6. The woman who never missed a call, who always let him know where she was, had vanished. And that tightening knot in Aaron's stomach, that primal instinct that something was catastrophically wrong, was about to trigger a search that would unravel every careful plan Vincent Stanford had made. The clock was ticking, and time was running out for a killer who thought he was smarter than everyone else. 5 p.m., Easter Sunday evening. Aaron Leeson has called Stephanie's phone 17 times. Every call goes straight to voicemail. Every text goes unanswered. The knot in his stomach has transformed into full-blown panic. He calls Stephanie's parents, and the moment Marilyn Scott hears Aaron's voice, she knows. Mothers always know. That tone, the one trying so hard to stay calm but edged with something close to terror, tells her everything before Aaron even says the words. Have you heard from her? His voice is tight, controlled, trying not to alarm them but unable to hide his concern. She left at 12:30 to go to the school, just to organize some lesson plans. She said 2 hours maximum. It's been 4.5 hours, and she's not answering her phone. Marilyn Scott tries to stay calm. Maybe Stephanie's phone died. Maybe she ran into a colleague and lost track of time. Maybe she stopped at the store. There's probably a simple explanation, but Marilyn knows her daughter. Stephanie always answers her phone, always lets people know where she is, always keeps her promises. 5:30 p.m. The Scott family begins making calls. Bob calls the school, no answer. Stephanie's sisters call her friends. Her brothers check with colleagues. Everyone asks the same question. Have you seen Stephanie? No one has. 6 p.m. The calls intensify. They contact every friend, every colleague, every person who might have crossed paths with Stephanie that day. Each call ends the same way. No, I haven't seen her. Is everything okay? No, everything is not okay. 6:45 p.m. The sun is setting over Leeton, darkness spreading across the farmland like a stain. Aaron stands in the driveway, staring at the empty space where Stephanie's red Mazda should be parked. The wedding invitations are still on the kitchen counter. Her wedding dress still hangs in the bedroom. Everything is exactly as she left it, except Stephanie isn't coming home. 7 p.m. They call the police. 2 officers from Leeton Police Station arrive at the Scott residence to take a report. Missing person. Female, 26 years old. Last seen leaving home at approximately 12:30 p.m. to go to Leeton High School. Driving a red Mazda 3. Should have been home hours ago. Not answering phone. Completely out of character. The officers exchange a look. In a town like Leeton, this doesn't happen. But they know Stephanie Scott. Everyone knows Stephanie. She's a teacher, well-loved, engaged to be married. This isn't a runaway situation. This is something else. 8:30 p.m. Police arrive at Leeton High School with flashlights and a growing sense of unease. The building is dark, locked, silent. They gain entry and begin searching. Stephanie's classroom looks completely normal. The lesson plans she came to organize are stacked neatly on the desk, secure with a paperclip and a bright yellow sticky note. Handouts are arranged by date. Notes for the substitute teacher are detailed and thoughtful. Everything is exactly as it should be, except Stephanie's laptop is missing, and her car is nowhere in the parking lot. The officers sweep through the building with flashlights, checking every classroom, every hallway, every storage room. They find nothing unusual. No signs of disturbance. No signs of struggle. No blood. No evidence that anything violent occurred here. The school is clean. Spotless, in fact. That's because Vincent Stanford had spent hours making sure of it. But while police were photographing Stephanie's classroom and searching the empty campus, while Aaron was providing a description of Stephanie's car to officers, while the Scott family was beginning the worst night of their lives, Vincent Stanford was 40 kilometers outside of Leeton. He was driving Stephanie's red Mazda through the darkness on rural roads toward Cocopara National Park. In the trunk, wrapped in plastic, was Stephanie's body. The drive to the national park is 70 kilometers from Leeton. On empty country roads, it takes about an hour. An hour alone with his thoughts. An hour to consider what he'd done. An hour to feel remorse, to turn around, to confess, to show some shred of humanity. But Vincent Stanford felt nothing. He drove carefully, obeying the speed limit, using his turn signals, doing nothing that would attract attention. Just another vehicle on a dark country road. Nothing suspicious. Nothing to see. He had the radio on. He later told police that detail. He was listening to music while he drove to dispose of Stephanie Scott's body. By the time police were wrapping up their search of the school and telling Aaron they'd continue looking first thing in the morning, Vincent Stanford had already reached Cocopara National Park. He'd already pulled off the main road onto a dirt track. He'd already chosen a spot where he would try to erase all evidence of what he'd done. The search for Stephanie Scott was just beginning. And while Vincent Stanford believed he committed the perfect crime, while he drove home that night confident that he thought of everything, he actually made a series of critical mistakes. Small mistakes that separately meant nothing. But together they would build a case so overwhelming, so undeniable, that even having an identical twin brother with the same DNA wouldn't save him. Because good police work isn't about one smoking gun. It's about 1,000 tiny pieces of evidence that, when assembled correctly, create an unbreakable chain. Detective Sergeant Tim Clark was about to start forging that chain. And Vincent Stanford's carefully constructed plan was about to fall apart, one piece of evidence at a time. Early Easter Monday morning. 2 a.m. The roads are empty. The town of Leeton is asleep. Families are in bed, dreaming peacefully, completely unaware that just kilometers away, evil is working under cover darkness. Vincent Stanford pulls off the main road into Cocopara National Park, and in that moment, he's making a choice that will haunt him forever, though he doesn't know it yet. His headlights sweep across the welcome to Cocopara sign before he kills the engine and sits in complete suffocating darkness. Listening, waiting, making absolutely sure he's alone. He believes he's in control. He believes he's thought of everything. He's about to discover just how wrong he is. The park is remote, isolated. Over 80,000 acres of dense Australian bushland where you could hide almost anything and never have it found. It's why Stanford chose this location. He'd researched it carefully, just like everything else. He exits Stephanie's red Mazda and stands in the darkness, letting his eyes adjust. Then he opens the trunk. What happened next? The disposal of Stephanie Scott's body. I'm not going to describe in detail. Not because I'm trying to hide anything, but because Stephanie deserves dignity even in death. And there's a line between informing and traumatizing that I won't cross. What you need to know is this. Stanford dragged Stephanie's body approximately 50 meters into bushland. He covered it with branches, bark, and debris. And then he did something that reveals the depths of his depravity. He set fire to her remains. While the fire burned, Vincent Stanford stood there with his phone out. He wasn't calling for help. He wasn't overcome with remorse. He was taking photographs, documenting what he'd done like it was some kind of trophy. When police later found these images on his phone, he told them he'd downloaded them from a horror movie. A lie, one of many. By 3:30 a.m., the fire had burned down. Stanford gathered anything that hadn't been consumed by the flames and buried it deeper in the bush. Then he walked back to Stephanie's car, got in, and drove back toward Leeton. But he didn't drive straight home. That would be too simple, too direct. Vincent Stanford had a plan, and he was sticking to it. He drove Stephanie's red Mazda to a remote field near Wamun, about 8 kilometers from Leeton, a place locals knew but outsiders would never think to look. He parked the car in tall grass, wiped down every surface he could think of. Steering wheel, door handles, gear shift. Tried to eliminate fingerprints. Then he walked 8 kilometers through farmland in pre-dawn darkness, back to his mother's house. By the time the sun started rising over Leeton on Easter Monday, Vincent Stanford was climbing into his own bed, believing he'd executed the perfect crime. He'd thought of everything: the timing, the location, the disposal, the cleaning, the cover-up, every detail meticulously planned and flawlessly executed. Or so he thought, because Vincent Stanford, for all his planning and calculation, made mistakes. Critical mistakes that he didn't even know were mistakes. Small decisions that seemed insignificant in the moment but would ultimately destroy his entire carefully constructed alibi. The first mistake? He assumed no one was watching. At 3:50 p.m. on Easter Sunday, hours before he took Stephanie to Cocopara National Park, while he was still in the middle of cleaning up the crime scene, Vincent Stanford took a break from the school and drove to Main Canal with something he needed to dispose of. He pulled up to the water's edge, looked around quickly to make sure he was alone, and threw something into the water. Something that could link him to Stephanie Scott. Something he absolutely needed to get rid of. He threw it hard, watched it sink, and drove away, satisfied that no one had seen him. But someone had. A local resident was driving past at exactly that moment. He saw a vehicle that matched the description of Stanford's Uda. He saw a man throw something into the water. At the time, it seemed odd but not necessarily suspicious. Just strange enough to remember. That witness, that one person who happened to be driving past at exactly the right moment, would become the thread that, when pulled, would unravel Vincent Stanford's entire plan. Because what Stanford threw into that canal wasn't just evidence. It was Stephanie's work laptop. The laptop she brought to school to finalize her lesson plans. The laptop that could prove she'd been at the school that day. The laptop that Stanford couldn't risk being found in his possession. He thought he was being smart, disposing of evidence, covering his tracks. What he actually did was create a roadmap for police to follow, a breadcrumb trail that would lead straight back to him. Because when that witness came forward and told police what he'd seen, when police divers pulled that laptop from the bottom of Main Canal, when forensic technicians managed to recover data from the waterlogged hard drive, Vincent Stanford's perfect crime started crumbling. The clock was ticking. The net was closing. And Stanford had no idea that his freedom could now be measured in hours, not days, because while he slept peacefully in his bed on Easter Monday morning, confident he'd gotten away with murder, Detective Sergeant Tim Clark was just arriving at Leeton Police Station to begin building a case. And Clark was the kind of investigator Vincent Stanford should have been terrified of, methodical, relentless, and absolutely unwilling to accept that a young bride-to-be could simply vanish from her own school. Within 72 hours, Clark would have Stanford in custody. Within a week, he'd have a confession. But first, he had to connect the dots. And the first was a laptop at the bottom of a canal, waiting to give up its secrets. April 8th, 2015, Wednesday morning, day 3 of Stephanie Scott's disappearance. For her family, every hour feels like a lifetime. For Detective Sergeant Tim Clark, every hour is critical. Statistics show that after 72 hours, the chances of finding a missing person alive drop dramatically. The clock is running out. Clark stands in the incident room at Leeton Police Station, staring at the board that's dominated by one face, Stephanie Scott. Her engagement photo smiles back at him, radiant, happy, 6 days away from a wedding that will never happen. And Clark makes a silent promise to that photograph. He will find her, he will bring her home, and he will make whoever did this pay. Around her photo, the evidence is mounting. Timeline charts, witness statements, location maps. But there's one glaring absence. Any sign of where Stephanie actually is. Clark knows what that usually means. He's been doing this long enough to recognize the signs. But he's not ready to say it out loud yet. Not to the family. Not even to his team. Strike Force gun debris has been assembled. The name itself carries weight in New South Wales police operations, a dedicated task force with one mission: find Stephanie Scott. Clark is a 20-year veteran of the force, known for his methodical approach and refusal to give up. He's worked missing persons cases before, but this one is different. This one feels wrong from the start. His team works around the clock. No one's going home. No one's sleeping more than a few hours. They've set up cots in the back room because leaving the station feels like abandoning Stephanie. By April 8th, they've made progress, but every answer raises new questions. Stephanie's red Mazda has been found in a field at Wamun, 8 kilometers from Leeton. The car is unlocked. The keys are missing. There's no sign of Stephanie. Forensic teams are processing every inch of the vehicle. Fibers, fingerprints, DNA, anything that might tell them what happened. Her laptop, the one she took to school to work on lesson plans, is still missing. The laptop that should be the easiest thing to find has vanished completely. Clark spreads a map across the table and begins marking locations with colored pins. Red for Stephanie's last known location, Leeton High School. Blue for her abandoned car, Wamun Field. Yellow for potential evidence, Main Canal, where a witness reported seeing someone dispose of something. He steps back and studies the pattern. The school, the canal, the abandoned car, all within a 15-kilometer radius, all within the Leeton region. This isn't someone passing through. This is someone who knows the area intimately, someone local, someone who understands the geography, the back roads, the hidden spots. Clark pulls the employment records for everyone with access to Leeton High School: teachers, administrators, maintenance staff, cleaners. He's looking for anyone who had reason to be at the school on Easter Sunday, when it should have been completely empty. One name stops him cold: Vincent Stanford, age 24, casual cleaner, started working at the school 6 months ago, lives locally with his mother and twin brother. Clark calls the cleaning company. Was Vincent Stanford scheduled to work Easter weekend? The answer changes everything. No, all our staff were given the long weekend off. Stanford wasn't authorized to be at the school. So why was his vehicle seen in the parking lot? Clark leans back in his chair, pieces clicking into place. Unauthorized presence, opportunity, local knowledge, and according to preliminary witness statements, Stanford was the only other person at the school on Easter Sunday. Before Clark can organize a team to bring Stanford in for questioning, something unexpected happens. April 8th, 11 a.m. Vincent Stanford walks into Leeton Police Station voluntarily. He approaches the front desk calmly, almost casually. "I heard you're looking for information about the missing teacher," he says. "I want to help." Senior Constable Whalen brings Stanford into an interview room. Clark watches through the two-way mirror, every instinct firing. Something about Stanford's demeanor is off. Too calm, too controlled. Most people coming in to help with a missing person case show some emotion, concern, nervousness, eagerness to assist. Stanford shows nothing. Whalen begins the interview. "Can you tell us about Easter Sunday? Were you at the school?" Stanford nods. "Yeah, I was there cleaning. I worked most of the weekend." "Did you see Stephanie Scott?" "No, I didn't see anyone except some roller skaters outside." "What time did you finish?" "Around 3 p.m. Then I went to the supermarket in town." Whalen takes careful notes. Stanford's answers are measured, precise, almost rehearsed. He maintains eye contact. He doesn't fidget. He appears completely at ease. Clark signals Whalen to wrap up the interview. "Thank you for coming in, Mr. Stanford. We'll be in touch if we need anything else." The moment Stanford leaves the building, Clark's team springs into action. First call, the supermarket Stanford claimed to visit. It takes exactly 3 minutes to confirm what Clark already suspected. The supermarket was closed on Easter Sunday, has been for years. Second call, the roller skaters. 2 teenagers who've been skating near the school that afternoon. Yes, they saw a vehicle in the parking lot. No, they never spoke to anyone. The cleaner never came outside. Third call, Stanford's employer. Already confirmed. All cleaners were on leave. Stanford had no authorization to be at the school. Every single thing Vincent Stanford just said was a lie. Clark pulls together his team. "Vincent Stanford just became our primary suspect. I want everything. Phone records, bank statements, vehicle registration, employment history, social media, known associates. And I want surveillance on him starting now. Do not let him out of our sight." But even as Clark organizes the investigation, another piece of the puzzle is about to fall into place. April 10th, based on the witness report from Easter Sunday, police divers are deployed to Main Canal. They're searching for whatever was thrown into the water. The conditions are terrible. Murky water, limited visibility, debris on the bottom. But they keep searching. After 6 hours, a diver surfaces holding an evidence bag. Inside is a laptop, waterlogged, covered in mud, but intact. Forensic technicians work through the night using rapid drying techniques, carefully separating components, using specialized equipment to recover data from damaged drives. It's painstaking work. One wrong move could destroy everything. By morning, they've succeeded. The laptop boots up. The screen displays, property of Leeton High School S. Scott. It's Stephanie's work laptop, the one she took to school Easter Sunday, the one that should have been with her. Clark stares at the laptop, at the lesson plan still open on the screen, at the note Stephanie had been typing for her substitute teacher. He picks up the phone. "I need a warrant for Vincent Stanford's property, his house, his vehicle, everything, and I need it now." Within hours, that warrant is signed. And on April 10th, 2015, at approximately 5 p.m., the exact same time police are executing that warrant and discovering blood evidence in Stanford's vehicle, another team of officers is making a discovery 70 kilometers away in Cocopar National Park. A discovery that will confirm what Clark has feared since the moment Stephanie's car was found abandoned. A discovery that will transform this missing person investigation into a murder case. A discovery that will break the hearts of everyone in Leeton and ensure that Vincent Stanford will never walk free again. The search for Stephanie Scott is about to become the hunt for her killer. April 10th, 2015, 4:30 p.m. 5 days after Stephanie Scott kissed her fiancé goodbye and drove to Leeton High School. 5 days of desperate searching, sleepless nights, and prayers are about to go unanswered. Detective Sergeant Tim Clark stands beside a convoy of police vehicles heading north from Leeton toward Cocopara National Park. He doesn't want to be right about where this is heading. He's hoping, praying, even though he's not a religious man, that the GPS data is wrong, that Stanford's vehicle was at the park for some innocent reason, that they'll find nothing. But 20 years of experience tells him otherwise. The GPS data recovered from Vincent Stanford's vehicle has led them to over 80,000 acres of dense Australian bushland. And Clark knows with a certainty that makes his stomach turn that they're not searching for evidence anymore. They're searching for a body. They're searching for evidence. Perhaps clothing. Maybe Stephanie's missing laptop bag. Anything that might tell them what happened to her. What they're about to find is far, far worse. The convoy pulls off the main highway onto Boundary Road, exactly matching the route stored in Stanford's GPS. The vehicles slow as they enter the park. Officers scanning the landscape for any sign of disturbance. It's late afternoon. The sun is already beginning its descent, and they know they're racing against darkness. The search area is massive. Dense bushland stretches in every direction. Rough terrain, thick undergrowth, countless places to hide something or someone. This isn't a search that can be rushed. This requires methodical, painstaking work. Officers spread out in a grid pattern, moving slowly through the bush. They're looking for anything out of place. Disturbed earth, broken branches, tire tracks, footprints, anything. The air is heavy with tension. Every officer knows what they might find. No one wants to be the one who finds it, but they keep searching because that's the job. Because Stephanie Scott deserves to be found. Because her family deserves answers. 4:55 p.m. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows through the trees. Senior Constable Matthews is moving through a particularly dense section when something makes him stop. It's not something he sees at first. It's something he smells. Anyone who's worked crime scenes long enough knows that smell. It's unmistakable. It's the smell of death. He follows it, moving carefully, and then he sees it. Disturbed ground, partially buried debris. The unmistakable char marks of fire that burn hot and long. And there, among the ashes and burned branches, what's left a human body? Matthews keys his radio. His voice is steady. He's a professional. But everyone listening can hear the weight in it. We've got remains. North Sector. I need forensics here now. 5 p.m. Officers converge on the location. Crime scene tape goes up. Evidence markers begin to appear like terrible little flags, marking the boundaries of tragedy. Photographers document everything from every angle. Forensic specialists begin the careful, heartbreaking work of processing a murder scene. The remains are badly burned, deliberately burned. Whoever did this tried to destroy any identifying features. Tried to make sure this person would never be found, or if found, never be identified. They failed. Even burned, there are things that survive. Bone fragments, dental work, enough for DNA testing. Enough to confirm what everyone already knows in their hearts. 5:15 p.m. Detective Clark arrives at the scene. He walks slowly toward the crime scene tape, each step heavier than the last. He's been a detective for 20 years. He's seen terrible things. But this, a young woman, a teacher, a bride-to-be, murdered and burned like garbage, this is different. He doesn't need DNA results to know. This is Stephanie Scott. The search for a missing person has just become a murder investigation. Clark stands at the edge of the scene, looking at the evidence markers, the burned ground, the remains of a life that should have had decades ahead of it. He thinks about the promise he made to Stephanie's photograph in the incident room. He promised to find her. He promised to bring her home. He's kept half that promise. Now he has to keep the second half. Make whoever did this pay. 5:47 p.m. 70 kilometers south. While forensic teams are carefully processing the scene at Cocopara, Another team of officers is pulling up to a modest suburban house in Leeton. They have a warrant for Vincent Stanford's arrest. They knock. Stanford's mother answers, confused and frightened. Within minutes, Vincent Stanford is standing in his living room, surrounded by police officers. Vincent Stanford, you are under arrest for the murder of Stephanie Scott. As the handcuffs click around his wrists, Stanford shows absolutely no emotion, no surprise, no fear, no denial, no grief. His face is completely blank, like he's watching a TV show that doesn't particularly interest him. It's a reaction that chills every officer present. Most people, when arrested for murder, show something: panic, anger, confusion, protestations of innocence. Stanford shows nothing. It's as if he expected this, as if he'd already planned for this moment. They lead him out to the waiting police vehicle. Neighbors are gathering, watching, shocked. This is Leeton. Things like this don't happen here, except they just did. While Stanford is being transported to the police station, forensic teams descend on his property, his house, his vehicle. Everything he owns is now evidence. They start with his Uda, the vehicle whose GPS led them to Cocopara. Under UV light, the truck bed tells a story. Blood, lots of it, soaked into the MDF board Stanford used to line the bed. He'd tried to clean it. There's evidence of bleach, of scrubbing, but blood is almost impossible to completely remove. It leaves traces that glow under UV light like accusations. Samples are taken. They'll be matched against Stephanie's DNA, but the investigators already know what the results will show. The GPS printout confirms Stanford's vehicle was at Leeton High School on Easter Sunday, at Main Canal where the laptop was thrown, at Woodlawn where Stephanie's car was abandoned, at Cocopara where her body was found. A perfect roadmap of a murder. In the vehicle, they find other items. A condom, still in its wrapper. A mobile phone, not Stanford's registered phone, but a second device. When they try to access it, it's locked. Stanford refuses to provide the passcode. That phone would later reveal searches for how to dispose of a body and how long does DNA last. But for now, it's just another piece of evidence in a case that's growing stronger by the hour. By midnight on April 10th, Vincent Stanford is in custody. The evidence against him is overwhelming. His vehicle places him at every relevant location. Blood matching Stephanie's DNA is in his truck. His lies have all been documented and disproven. It should be an open-end shut case. But as prosecutors begin building their case, Stanford's defense team introduces a complication that seems impossible to overcome. Two photographs land on Detective Clark's desk. Two faces, identical in every measurable way. Vincent Stanford on the left, his twin brother Marcus Stanford on the right. Same DNA, same face, same genetic code down to the last chromosome. And suddenly, every piece of forensic evidence, the blood, the DNA, the genetic material at the crime scene, becomes ambiguous. Because identical twins are nature's perfect alibi. Science itself cannot tell them apart. The defense's strategy is elegant and terrifying. Create reasonable doubt by making it impossible to prove which brother committed the murder. But what Stanford's lawyers don't know, what even Vincent doesn't realize yet, is that DNA isn't the only evidence that matters. And Detective Clark is about to prove that you can't hide behind your twin when you've already confessed in your own words. This is where the case should have been simple. Overwhelming evidence, GPS tracking, blood in the vehicle, a body recovered, lies exposed, case closed. But Vincent Stanford's legal team introduces a complication that threatens to do what Stanford himself couldn't: get away with murder. Because in Australian legal history, there's never been a case quite like this. A case where the accused has an identical genetic twin. A case where the very science used to convict criminals becomes the weapon used to defend them. The complication has a name: Marcus Stanford. Vincent Stanford has an identical twin brother. And in the world of forensic science, identical twins present a nearly insurmountable problem. They share exactly the same DNA, same genetic code, same biological markers. Indistinguishable at the molecular level, every blood sample recovered from Vincent's vehicle, every DNA match from the crime scene, every piece of forensic evidence that seemed absolutely ironclad, suddenly cast into doubt. The defense's argument is devastatingly simple. Prove which twin did it. Yes, Vincent was at the school. Yes, his vehicle, or was it their vehicle, went to the national park. Yes, forensic evidence connects Stanford to the murder. But which Stanford? What if Marcus committed the crime? What if Vincent is protecting his brother? What if they planned it together and Vincent is taking the fall? DNA evidence alone cannot answer these questions. Science itself cannot tell identical twins apart. In the courtroom, prosecutors confer urgently. Their case, which seemed unbreakable hours ago, suddenly has a massive vulnerability. Defense attorneys know it. They're already preparing reasonable doubt arguments for a jury. But Detective Clark isn't worried, because he knows something the defense doesn't. Police bring Marcus Stanford in for questioning. The contrast between the brothers is immediate and striking. Where Vincent was calm, Marcus is nervous. Where Vincent was controlled and emotionless, Marcus is agitated and emotional. Where Vincent sat perfectly still, Marcus fidgets constantly, avoiding eye contact, his leg bouncing under the table. Under questioning, Marcus starts to crack. Not about the murder itself. He swears he had nothing to do with that, and detectives believe him. But about what came after. Marcus Stanford helped his twin brother cover up a murder. He burned Stephanie's driver's license in his backyard. He took her engagement ring. The ring Aaron had given her. The ring she was supposed to wear 6 days later when she became Mrs. Leeson Woolley, and pawned it for cash. He did the same with her graduation ring. Marcus Stanford is an accessory after the fact of murder. He's arrested, charged, and eventually sentenced to 15 months in prison. But he's not the killer. And despite the identical DNA, the evidence proves Vincent, and only Vincent, committed this crime. Here's what breaks the twin defense. The GPS data is from Vincent's vehicle. Marcus doesn't have access to that OODA. He can't drive, doesn't have a license. The witness at Main Canal didn't just see a Stanford. He identified Vincent specifically by his clothing, his build, the way he moved. Vincent's behavior during interrogation was too knowledgeable. He knew details about the crime scene that only the killer would know. When detectives mentioned specific locations within the school, Vincent reacted. Marcus didn't. And finally, there's Vincent's confession. Detailed, specific, unprompted, remorseless. I did it at the high school. I beat her to death. His words, his voice, his confession. The twin defense crumbles. And with it goes Vincent Stanford's last hope of escaping justice. But even with overwhelming evidence, even with his own confession, Stanford's lawyers make one final argument, one that will determine whether he spends decades in prison or the rest of his life behind bars. Because Vincent Stanford isn't just a murderer. The psychological evaluations reveal something far more disturbing. He's been fantasizing about killing since childhood, stalked multiple women before Stephanie, and had detailed plans to kill again. The question facing the court isn't whether Vincent Stanford is guilty. It's whether Vincent Stanford is a monster who should never see daylight again. As prosecutors prepare for trial, they begin compiling Vincent Stanford's complete psychological profile. What they discover isn't just disturbing, it's terrifying, because the evidence reveals that Stephanie Scott's murder wasn't an isolated incident of violence. It was a culmination of decades of dark fantasies finally acted upon. Police forensic teams meticulously examine everything seized from Stanford's property, and what they find transforms this from a murder case into something far more sinister. The discovery of a predator who'd been operating undetected in Leeton for years. His notebooks, his computer files, his phone records, his internet history, Each item peels back another layer of a deeply disturbed mind that hadn't just been planning Stephanie's murder. He'd been preparing to become one of Australia's most prolific serial killers. In his bedroom, investigators find notebooks filled with handwritten entries, page after page of surveillance notes, detailed logs tracking multiple women in Leeton, their daily routines, their work schedules, when they were alone, when they were vulnerable. One file stands out for its sheer volume and obsessive detail. A 12-year-old girl, a child. Stanford had been stalking her for months without anyone knowing. Police find 1,805 photographs of this child, taken secretly from a distance, documenting her movements to and from school, playing in her yard, walking with friends. Investigators also discovered detailed logs of her family's routines. When parents left for work, when siblings went to activities, when the house was empty. One entry chills every officer who reads it. Home alone 1540, time enough to abduct. He'd been planning to kidnap a child. He'd been calculating the exact window of opportunity. When questioned about this, Stanford told police, "If I had taken her, I probably would have killed her too." Probably, as if it was just a casual consideration. His computer browser history paints an even darker picture. Searches dating back months before Stephanie's murder. How to abduct someone without being caught. Effects of chloroform. How to dispose of body. How long does DNA evidence last? These weren't casual curiosities. These were research, preparation, planning. Psychiatric evaluations ordered by the court reveal the depth of Stanford's pathology. According to multiple psychologists, Stanford reported having violent fantasies since age 7 or 8. By age 12, he'd acted on those fantasies, attempting to strangle a teacher at school. The incident was dismissed at the time as a disturbed child acting out. Looking back, it was a warning sign everyone missed. Stanford told court-appointed psychologists with disturbing honesty, "I always knew I'd kill someone eventually. It was just a question of when and who. Not if." When investigators created a geographic profile of Stanford's stalking behavior, a map of Leeton appears, covered with photographs of multiple women. Faces blurred for their protection and privacy. Red lines connect Stanford's residents to their homes, their workplaces, their regular routes. The pattern is unmistakable. Vincent Stanford had been hunting. Stephanie Scott wasn't random. She wasn't a victim of opportunity. She was chosen. Stanford had been watching her at the school for weeks, learning her patterns, studying her schedule, waiting for the perfect moment. And the evidence suggests something even more chilling. Stephanie wasn't going to be his last victim. Among Stanford's possessions, police find notebooks with names. Other women he'd been watching, other potential victims, plans for future attacks, written in the same clinical, detached language he used to describe Stephanie's murder. Detective Clark reviews the evidence with a grim realization. They didn't just solve a murder. They stopped a serial killer in the making. If Stanford had succeeded in evading capture, the names in his notebook would have become more victims, more families destroyed, more lives stolen. But on October 13th, 2016, Vincent Stanford would face the one thing he never planned for, a courtroom filled with people who loved Stephanie Scott. Her mother, Marilyn, would speak the words that defined what was truly lost. The defense would make one final plea for mercy, arguing Stanford deserved a chance at rehabilitation. And Justice Robert Hume would have to answer the question that haunted everyone. Does a man who planned to become a monster deserve anything less than spending the rest of his life in prison? October 13th, 2016. Sentencing day. 18 months after Stephanie Scott kissed Aaron goodbye and drove to Leeton High School. 18 months of investigation, grief, legal proceedings, and waiting for this moment. The Supreme Court at Griffith is packed beyond capacity, and the atmosphere carries a weight that no one present will ever forget. Media from across Australia line the streets outside. This case has gripped the nation, become a symbol of small-town tragedy, and justice delayed but not denied. Inside, every seat is filled. Stephanie's family and friends sit together in the front rows. A sea of yellow. Stephanie's favorite color, transforming grief into visible defiance. They've turned her signature color into armor, into memory, into a statement that Vincent Stanford could destroy her body, but never her spirit. And there, at the defense table, sits Vincent Stanford, 25 years old now, still showing absolutely no emotion, his face blank, his eyes empty. Even on the day that will determine whether he ever walks free again, he shows nothing. The proceedings begin with victim impact statements. This is the moment when Stephanie's loved ones can speak directly about what was stolen from them, what Vincent Stanford took when he murdered Stephanie Scott. Marilyn Scott, Stephanie's mother, approaches the witness stand. The courtroom falls into absolute silence. You can hear people breathing. The weight of this moment is suffocating. Marilyn has prepared written remarks, but she also speaks from her heart, a mother who will never see her daughter graduate, never attend a wedding, never hold her grandchildren. Her beautiful smile beams out at us from every photo. Marilyn says, her voice breaking but strong. But we don't need photos to remember her. She is in our every cell, a heartbeat away. She is in every sunrise, every act of kindness, every student who find their voice because a teacher believed in them. She turns to look directly at Vincent Stanford. You try to destroy her. You try to reduce her to nothing, but you failed. Because Stephanie's light, her kindness, her passion, her love, will never go out. It lives on in everyone she touched. You took her life, but you couldn't take her legacy, and that will haunt you in every empty year you spend in prison. The courtroom is silent, except for quiet crying. Even the judge has to pause before continuing. Aaron Leeson Woolley speaks next, though briefly. His statement is simple and devastating. She was supposed to be my wife. We were supposed to grow old together. Instead, I'm 26 years old, and I've already lost the love of my life. There's no sentence long enough to make up for what he took from us. When the victim statements conclude, Crown Prosecutor Lee Carr stands to make his final argument for sentencing. This was a cold-blooded, merciless, sexually motivated killing. Carr states with controlled intensity. This is the worst category of murder this court will ever see. The defendant stalked multiple women. He planned to become a serial killer. He showed no remorse before, during, or after the murder. He represents a permanent danger to the community. There's only one appropriate sentence: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Defense attorney Janet Manuel makes her argument for a determinate sentence rather than life. She cites Stanford's autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, arguing it had a causal connection to his offending. She presents psychological reports suggesting Stanford could potentially be rehabilitated with intensive treatment. The courtroom waits. This is the moment everything has been building toward. Justice Robert Hume orders Vincent Stanford to stand. Stanford rises, his face still showing nothing. No fear, no anticipation, no emotion of any kind. Justice Hume begins to speak. His voice is grave, measured, final. I am satisfied that this is a case of murder that clearly falls within the worst category of cases. The offender's culpability is so extreme, and the circumstances so heinous, that the community interest in retribution, punishment, community protection, and deterrence can be met with only one response. The courtroom holds its breath. Vincent Stanford, you are sentenced to life imprisonment. You will never be eligible for parole. You will die in prison.
I am satisfied that this is a case of murder that clearly falls within the worst category. It does so to the extent that subjective matters that might ordinarily call for amelioration of the sentencing response should be set aside. I am satisfied beyond any doubt that the offender's culpability is so extreme that the community interest in retribution, punishment, community protection and deterrence can be met with only one response. Mr. Stanford, would you stand up, please? For the aggravated sexual assault and the murder of Stephanie Claire Scott, you are convicted. Both of the sentences I impose will take effect from the 8th of April 2015. For the aggravated sexual assault, you are sentenced to imprisonment for 15 years. I decline to nominate a proportion of that sentence as a non-parole period, as there is no utility in doing so. For the murder of Stephanie Scott, you are sentenced to imprisonment for life.
The gavel falls. For a moment, there's absolute silence. And then the courtroom exhales as one, a collective release of tension that's been building for 18 months. It's not celebration. How could it be? Stephanie is still gone. Aaron is still alone. The Scott family still has an empty chair at every gathering. But it's justice. Finally, definitively justice. Vincent Stanford is led away in handcuffs, his face still blank, still showing nothing as he disappears through the courtroom doors for the last time as anything other than prisoner number 549328. He'll spend the rest of his life in a maximum security cell. He'll never harm another woman. He'll never execute the plans found in his notebooks. He'll die in prison, exactly as he deserves. But outside the courtroom, as Stephanie's family emerges into the October sunshine, a different story is just beginning. Because justice in a courtroom is one thing, healing in a community is another. And for the town of Leeton, for Aaron, for the Scott family, for everyone whose life Stephanie touched, the question isn't what happens to Vincent Stanford anymore. The question is, how do you move forward when evil has visited your town and stolen someone irreplaceable? How do you reclaim the light? April 11th, 2015. The date circled on Stephanie's calendar for a year. The day she was supposed to walk down the aisle in her white dress, surrounded by sunflowers, and marry Aaron Leeson Woolley under the Australian sky. Instead, hundreds gather for a candlelight vigil as the sun sets over Leeton. The wedding venue stands empty, but the community fills the town square. Yellow ribbons are tied to every lamppost, every fence, every tree. Sunflowers, Stephanie's favorite, cover makeshift memorials. The flowers she would have carried as a bride now honor her memory. They share stories. Stories that reveal who Stephanie really was beyond the headlines and the horror. A former student stands up, voice shaking. I was so shy I couldn't even raise my hand in class. Miss Scott saw me, really saw me. She convinced me to audition for the school play. I got the lead role. She changed my life. She made me believe I could be someone. A colleague shares how Stephanie tutored her daughter for free every Thursday after school, refusing payment. That's just who she was, the woman says through tears. She gave without expecting anything back. Random acts of kindness emerge. The student whose lunch Stephanie bought when she noticed they hadn't eaten. The new teacher Stephanie mentored through their first difficult year. The friend she drove hours to visit in the hospital. These are the stories Vincent Stanford tried to erase. These are the moments that define Stephanie Scott's true legacy. Aaron Leeson Woolley stands to speak. He holds a single sunflower, the flower Stephanie would have carried down the aisle. His voice breaks, but he pushes through. She taught me what love means. Real love, the kind that makes you better, the kind that sees the good in everyone, even when it's hard to find. And nothing, not Vincent Stanford, not this tragedy, not even death, can take that away from us. Stephanie lives on in every person she touched, every life she changed, every student who found their courage because she believed in them first. The crowd is silent except for a quiet crying and the flickering of hundreds of candles against the darkening sky. Leeton changed after Stephanie's murder. The town that never locked its doors now has security cameras. Schools that trusted everyone now have strict protocols. Children who once rode bikes freely are watched more carefully. The innocence of small-town life was shattered, and it will never fully return. But something else emerged from the tragedy. Something Stanford never anticipated. The Stephanie Scott Memorial Scholarship was established, helping aspiring teachers pursue their dreams in her honor. Dozens of students have received support to follow Stephanie's path into education, carrying forward her passion for teaching and belief in young people. school safety reforms were implemented across Australia. Stephanie's case led to changed protocols about staff access, weakened security, and lone worker policies. Her death made schools safer for thousands of teachers and students. Local journalist Monique Patterson wrote, "United in Grief," a book ensuring Stephanie's story, her real story, not just a murder, would never be forgotten. The book celebrates her life, her impact, and the community's response. At Leeton High School, the drama program continues in Stephanie's name. Every school play includes a dedication, in memory of Stephanie Scott, who taught us to find our voices. Vincent Stanford tried to reduce Stephanie to a headline, a tragedy, a statistic, a cautionary tale. He failed completely, because Stephanie Scott is remembered for her brilliant smile, her infectious enthusiasm, her unwavering kindness. Her students carry forward the confidence she gave them. Her family keeps her spirit alive through service and love. Her community refuses to let darkness define her story. Stephanie Scott's legacy isn't how she died, it's how she lived. And that light will never, ever go out. And while this chapter closes, the world of true crime continues to reveal stories of deception, double lives, and the tragic cost of misplaced trust. Next time, we'll uncover another chilling story of betrayal and tragedy. Before you go, if you found this story compelling, insightful, or important, please like this video, share it with someone who cares about true crime awareness, and subscribe for more in-depth, narrative-driven documentaries. Your support helps these stories reach more people, honor the victims, and keep their memories alive.